living in a culture that externally we have peace, we have prosperity, things are going well, and yet under the radar screen, there is a lot of chaos and confusion. How do we navigate that? What does that mean in our real lives? And so you look around for examples and models that can teach us how to navigate it. And of course, I'm always been drawn back to the now off the air, or not live anymore, but show Sex and the City. If you think about that show, I'm not sure how many of y'all watch that, but if you think about it, a lot of us really like that show, right? Especially now the TBS version is kind of scaled down. You can see in that a really fascinating paradigm for what our culture offers in terms of ways to navigate the confusing landscape of relationships. Again, whether it's in marriage or family or friendships. Samantha, you know who Samantha is? How does she navigate it? Well, she's the sex addict. Basically, she navigates the chaos and the relational confusion in our culture through pleasure. She's like, it's going to be pleasure in the moment that's going to carry me through. You might listen for yourself too in these 4 different categories and see which ones you identify with. Actually, I can see little bits of myself in all of them, so maybe that's not a helpful exercise, but it might be. So Samantha, Miranda, she's the cynic. She's going to just conquer the chaos through her power. She's going to get on top of it, and she's going to be boss. She's going to be boss of the men around her. She's going to be boss at work. She's going to get on top of it through her power. So Samantha, she's going to get through the chaos by just moments of pleasure. Miranda, she's going to get on it by being in control, by having the power. Charlotte, I think she's a bit like me. Charlotte just lives with a perpetual fantasy that she'll get rescued. Like somehow this is all just one big fuzzy in-between dream between now and when the night shiner comes and takes her, off to wherever it is that she's going to go. And even if she gets married, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do for her. I think a lot of single women sometimes inadvertently fall into this category of thinking, marriage, that would just be the silver bullet. If I could just get that, then everything would work. And I am way about marriage, and I would way like to get married, and you are all welcome to set me up with your cute brother, your engineer, and I want to have that out on the table. But the reality is that I talk to a lot of married friends, and it doesn't save our souls. And fantasy and illusion don't save our souls. And romantic dreams are good, and there's probably some God-given truth that's in our romantic dreams, but that's not what saves our souls. And then lastly, there's Carrie. Carrie's not about sort of the sex addiction and the pleasure. She's not about just the power and the conquering. She's not about the fantasy and getting removed. She's just going to stay kind of neurotically detached. It's all chaotic. I'm just going to write about it, keep me over here, I'm going to write my stuff, and I'm just going to stay on the outside. And I think that's really the models that our culture offers for how to navigate the chaos of relationships. And, apart from the truth of knowing who God is in Christ, you can't really blame people. You got to take what you can get, or that's what it feels like to folks. So I get that. And I do see a little bit of myself in each of those. But what I've started to really believe, and this was an amazing thing this week, even though I was totally intense because I was running CTU, and I was calling the senators, and I was doing the overseas calls, and my parents were out of the country, which was not helpful this time. Even given all that intensity, what I'm starting to realize is down the place where I live, where you really live, down here, which is not really up here. We want to get our thinking straight, but I'm talking about the place where I come back to on a lonely Saturday night, down in that place. Or down in the place when I show up at my cousin's wedding, my most recent cousin's wedding, where the sweet, well-meaning father of the groom came up to me during the rehearsal dinner and said, "Well, you're Sarah's cousin, aren't you?" And I said, "I sure am." This was about 2 months ago. He said, "Well, how old are you?" and Sarah's younger. She's 25, and I'm 41. And I said, "How old do you think I him. You know, I don't know what to say. So he said, I don't know, mid upper, probably upper 20s. And I said, well, close. Because I didn't want to throw him off. And he said, oh, well, how close? I think he was just feeling awkward because I think he didn't know what to do with me. And so I said, well, 41. I think he realized that wasn't that close. And then he said to me, he said, well, are you married? And I said, no. And he said, well, are you divorced? And because I think that would even make him feel better, you know? Like at least I'd been there and done that, you know? I hadn't even been there and done that. And I said, well, no, I'm not. And he said, well, do you want to be married? And I said, well, yes, I would like to be married. And he said, so I think we should just bring all that right now. And we were at the rehearsal dinner thinking about her on the side. And now, he meant this very kindly. I really know that. Like, his spirit was not hostile or pejorative or anything like that, but it was a little awkward. And the sarcastic part of me, which is not what I'm championing, and I'm not saying that you should try this at home, but part of me wanted to say, oh, that's a good idea, I never thought about that. But I didn't say that. Instead, I received the prayer, and I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the prayer. Put me on the edge, you know. But I don't, to my knowledge, I haven't seen that happen yet. So, but it's in those moments, or another moment, like this spring, a book review came out in the Daily Progress, which is the Charlottesville paper, which goes to maybe 75,000 people, and then an additional circulation of, you know, another 25,000 people might see it. And there was a big review of the book. I mean, went across 4 columns, 2,000 words, big picture of the cover, and we just slammed the book. I mean, it was painful. Actually, I had to. Maybe it was even my friend Jeannie who decided to read it to somebody. Like, I couldn't, or had her read to me, I couldn't even face it. And she said that, you know, singleness shouldn't merit so much soul searching. She thought it was ridiculous, and that if I wasn't sleeping with men at my age, no wonder I couldn't keep a boyfriend. And that was a little stinging, but I'm trying to realize all my friends who are therapists are like, ooh, there's lights on her dashboard, you know, there's something going on there. But it is, those are the moments where, is this God thing real? That question shows up. It's the moments at that rehearsal dinner. It's on a lonely Saturday night. It's when I read that book review, or when I'm worried about my family trying to evacuate Lebanon with lots of bombs. Those are the moments when that question of, is there a God in whom I can place my hope? When that question really has meaning. And I keep coming to the conclusion, now this has nothing to do with my emotions. Okay, my emotions, I was dissolved in tears this morning, just for the record, just so you know. It's been a little stressful week. I was driving to Richmond, had to do talk. And so my emotions, those things go all over the place. But the reality is that my conviction in a place that's even deeper than emotion is that somehow in the chaos, in the confusion, in the disappointment, in the unknown, God is good, and the life He has for us is worth embracing, even in its struggle. I have been learning to say, I think like my sister-in-law, if I were to take her words, I would say, I am trying to trust God moment by moment. I am going to try and get out of it, the lonely Saturday night, or the unintentional singleness, or the, you know, nasty moment of reading the book review, or whatever it might be. I am going to try and get out of that. I am going to do my part to change my circumstances. But if I don't get out, I will trust that God has me here for another purpose. Or to be able to say with my nephew, I think the ride thus far, in my case, through the landscape, the confusing landscape of relationships in our culture, has been on the whole good, because maybe not the Marines, but my job and my friends and my family and my community have been protecting me. But really, I think it's God who is protecting me. I know it sounds really quite basic, But I think it's what our culture's starving for, is to hear that in those moments, the moments that are beneath the radar screen, that nobody else sees, that the person sitting next to you in this table most likely does not know about. That in those moments, there is a God who is real and good and who is showing up. You might ask, how? Okay, well, what I want to do is to share a little bit from the book. I originally wanted to call the book God's Sightings, because that was like it seemed God showing up these different moments, and I think they thought it was a little out there, like the X-Files or something like that. And again, they didn't want to use cuss words, and they didn't want to do like weird alien things in the book titles, so I don't blame them. But what I want to do is I want to read a bit of a book, a bit of a chapter from the book called So Why Aren't You Married? Now, before I read that, for those of you who either you're like, oh, I've so been there and done that, or you're happily married and this is just not your issue. You know some single people, but in your heart of hearts, this is not your issue. Or you're single and you are so happy to be single. I want you to think about what it is for you, okay? I was saying to somebody earlier when we were doing the TV and Scona's piece, I said that for me, the way into having to face and look directly at the achy areas of my heart and the areas where I doubt God's goodness, for me, it has come through unintentional singleness. That's not the case for everybody, by any stretch. But there is some area, I would be willing to wager, there is some area in your life where there has been a residual ache that is underneath the radar screen and that's probably relationally connected. And so as I read this part of the chapter, even though it's going to be talking in terms of singleness, I want you to try and, if you can, to listen at the larger level for how is God showing up in this particular area. For me, but then also asking the question, might that mean something for you as well, even if your situation or feelings about your situation are quite different. Does that make sense? Because I really think at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get across in my book, and you know, at the end of the day, it's a book, whatever, books come and go, the making of many books, you know, can beard the soul, all those things that Proverbs says. The book is not the point. The point is that I want to see people grow in the hope that they will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Might look different than anticipated, but that God's goodness is showing up in the land of the living, and so we can grab on and love the life we don't expect. So if you'll sit back and listen for a moment or two. I'm not sure when you were read to last. Might have been a little while for some of you. I'm going to read, and this is going to be about 20 minutes, actually, so you can get yourself comfortable, take a sip of your water or your drink, and just let go of the people around you, and let go of all those things that you brought in today that were on your mind. I'm going to let go of Lebanon and Beirut and the Middle East. And we're just going to be present and listening, and listening for what God might want to say about how He is showing up, even in those places that are under the radar screen that other people don't see. So, why are we married? That's the title of this. It is a question I get a lot, clearly. During his middle school years, my older brother subscribed to a humorous cartoon periodical called Mad Magazine. It has a section titled Snappy Answers